Hi everyone, my name is Asmita Minali and I'm a counselor at Pacific International, and my job is to help students prepare for their F1 student visa interview. And in this video, I'm going to specifically talk about 5 very important things that you must learn before you appear for the F1 student visa interview. Let's get started. The first thing that I want to discuss with you today is the student visa criteria. Before you meet the visa officer, it's very important for you to understand that there are certain criteria that the visa officer use in order to determine whether to give a student the visa or not. The first criteria that is there, and that was provided by the US Embassy, was that you have an intent to use the visa only to study. Visa officers believe that students use a student visa as a medium to enter USA, and then they focus more on their work or they want to migrate to US permanently. That's a doubt because a lot of immigrants enter USA through the student visa route. So it's obvious that visa officer have the doubt. So the first thing that you need to convince to the visa officer is that you're not an immigrant. You're not looking for work opportunities. You are going to USA for your studies, and your primary concern will be your studies. So when visa officer will be asking you questions like why do you want to study in the United States or why do you choose this subject, it's very important that you're informed about your choices. You must know why you chose that particular university. What was the reason behind you choosing them? I will talk about those questions, while we have a separate section for that. But the first criteria is try to convince the officer that you only want to study in the United States. The second criteria that you need to understand and that the visa officer uses to determine the genuine students is that you are able to fund your program. Yes, education is expensive, right? All of us know that. If the visa officer thinks that you may not be able to pay for the expenses that you will be having in the United States, then there can be a significantly higher risk for your application. Let's say your cost of attendance, the total expense, including your tuition, living expenses, your medical books, insurance, it's 30,000 US dollars. Now, if you will be spending 30,000 US dollars every year, then you must have enough sources of money that will be enough to cover your expenses. We will talk about the funding part in the major questions that we will be having. But for now, let me tell you about the third criteria. The third criteria that you need to understand is that you intend to depart the US after your studies. What do you mean by that? Like I told you in the first criteria, visa officers believe that students come to USA and stay there permanently. They are not just looking for study pathways, but they are looking for immigration options. So, if the visa officer has a doubt that your intention is not to go to US and study, but you are planning to go there and never come back to your home country, then it can be really risky for the visa interview. So you have to convince the officer that you have very strong plans. Your career plans are related to your home country, and you have a lot of strengths in your home country. You have assets that you can use for your future business. Probably you have a land which you can use for your factory. So returning back to home country is a very important criteria that a genuine student must have, and it's important to convince the same thing to the visa officer. So that was the first topic that we discussed, the criteria. Let me quickly revise. The first criteria was that you must prove to the officer that your main intention is to study. Second, you must have enough sources of money. We will talk about the sources in a while. And the third criteria is that you must have an intention to return back home. Let's jump to the next topic now. The second topic that we are going to cover in this video, and that's very important for the US visa interview, is the questions that you will be getting from the visa officer during the interview. I want to divide it into two parts. The first one is the questions that you can predict, like why do you want to study in the United States? Or why this major? What's your future plan? How will you pay for it? And why did you choose this subject? These can be the questions which are most commonly asked in the F1 student visa interview. But apart from that as well, you have some other unpredictable questions which we will be discussing. Let's start with the predictable ones. The first question that we will be dealing with is why USA? It's a very common question, and there is a big chance you will get this in your interview as well. So, how to deal with this question? Why USA? It's very important that you do proper research about the US education system before you appear for the interview. And I see a lot of students saying points like, I want to study in the USA because of the quality of education, because of the top notch degree, because of the global recognition. I know that these ideas are not incorrect. However, if you say things like that, you are not telling anything about you. You are not showing to the visa officer that you have done a lot of research about the US education system, right? So always try to avoid things like top-notch education, high-quality education, recognized degree. Rather talk about you and your subject. For example, let's say you are going for a degree in game design. Then rather than saying that US has good research opportunities, US has high quality education, you can say things like, if I go to the United States, I can get opportunity to go to the universities which has design studios and virtual labs on campus, which I can use for my education. And apart from that, if I study in US, I can learn about animation and characters from people from all around the world. And that's going to be a great exposure for me because I want to be a game designer. This can be a good answer for somebody going for a subject game design. However, I do not want you to copy paste your answers from anywhere. Try to think what kind of advantage can a person have which is relevant to your particular major, and prepare your answers accordingly. The second predictable, very common question that you might have in your F1 student visa interview is, why this university? Do not say things like, I have chosen this university because it offers a reputed degree, it's a ranked university. Do not say things like, this university will help me get good education, there are experienced faculty members. These points are not incorrect, but that does not tell anything about the research that you have done or anything about your subject or you. Talk more about your interest and what the university offers that will support you. For example, you can say something like, let's say you are going for a computer science degree. All right. So you can say something like, I've chosen this university, XYZ University, for my education because this university has a focus on artificial intelligence, and because I want to be somebody who want to develop chatbots and software that can interact with human beings. The degree offered is very relevant to me. And apart from that, if I choose this university, I can participate in hackathons every 3 months because there are such programs at the university, and there are coding boot camps which will help me in being very fluent with my coding skills, programming skills. So I guess this university is perfect for me. Again, I'm trying to pull you back to your major. I want you to talk more about you and your subject and your interest rather than just talking about the university in general. All right, I hope it's clear. And if you feel you need more information, you can always go back to the video where we have discussed why this university. So the third predictable question that can appear in your F1 student visa interview is, why this major? Why did you choose to study this subject? So in order to answer this question well, I want you to focus on two things. First, why do you need this subject? And second, what you will learn from it. Let's try to learn about it through an example, criminology, let's say. So let's say if the visa officer asks you, why did you choose criminology? You can say something like, I want to be a criminal lawyer and policymaker in the future. So this course will help me to learn about legal drafting. It will help me in understanding about crime psychology. And it is also going to help me in learning about developing different policies for criminal justice. So I feel that this degree is perfect for me because it will help me be a great criminologist, and it will also help me in researching and planning about the new policies. So this answer is relevant to the student's future plan and also says a few things about what the student wants to learn. This can be a good answer. Let's move on to another question that you can have in your F1 student visa interview. And that is, what's your future plan? Having a good future plan is very important, because if you remember, the third criteria that was there in order for a student to get the visa was that you must have an intention to return back to your home country. And if your future plan is not strong, you cannot convince that, right? So let's talk about how you can make your future plan a strong one. Now, when it comes to future plan, really want you to talk about what position you want to have and what kind of things are you interested in doing. For example, let's say you have chosen finance as your major. Then your career option can be that I want to start my career as a investment banker, and probably you want to be a big investor in the future. So let's talk about it. What's your future plan? Initially, I plan on being an investment banker, because being a banker will help me to understand about different investments, risks, and the market condition of a country. I want to do that in Nepal because I want to build a career here. And later on, I wish to have my own investment firm where I will be making large scale investments, but I will understand about the market first. This can be a future plan for somebody who had chosen to study finance. The last thing, the fifth very predictable question can be, how will you pay for your expenses? Let's say that your cost of attendance, the total cost you will be spending to study in the United States per year, is 30,000 or 32,000 US dollars. Then first try to understand how much is it in your local currency. How much will you be spending each month? Let's say that you will be spending $2,500 every month for your expenses in the United States. The thing is, do you have enough source to pay for your expenses? Before you go to the interview, you must arrange the sources which you are going to use for your expenses. What can you use? The first and the most important thing that you can use as a source of money for your expenses is your sponsors' income sources. Let's say your parents are your prime sponsors. Talk about what do your parents do and how the money is being brought into house. How much do you save? How much do you have in the bank accounts? You can even use that. And after you have the directly available sources like the bank balance and the regular income source, you can even go on talking about the passive income sources. It may be an investment made by your mother in a local bakery, or it can be the investments that you have in the share market. It can be your commercial building that is on rent. Also talk about the passive income sources that you have. And apart from that, you can also talk about your assets. Listen to the question asked by the visa officers carefully. At times, visa officers will just be asking, what does your father do? But the students will be like, my parents will be paying for my expenses. We have this much, we have that much, we have land, we have building. No, the visa officer was asking about, what does your father do? So listen to the question carefully, have everything planned in head, and talk in regards to what the question is. All right. So these were the predictable questions that has a very high chance of appearing in your US visa interview. And for almost all the topics, we already have made separate videos which are more detailed. But for now, let's move on to the next topic that we will be discussing today. And that is the unpredictable questions. US visa interview is a conversation, and you cannot predict what the other person is going to ask you next in a conversation, right? In a similar way, in the US visa interview as well, there are so many unpredictable questions. The first kind of unpredictable question comes from the answer that you are giving to the officer. For example, you are saying that I want to study computer science because I'm very interested in artificial intelligence and this. The visa officer can interrupt you and ask, what do you mean by artificial intelligence? The first kind of questions can come from what you are saying. At times, I hear students saying, I want to study in this university because it provides hands on learning experience. And while taking mock interviews, I ask them, what do you mean by hands on learning? And they do not know about it because they saw this word somewhere in Google. So, whatever you are saying, whatever you are talking about, make sure that you understand it. That's the First kind of question that you can get, unpredictable question that you can get, and that will come from your answer. Let's say that you are saying that your father is a businessman, he owns XYZ business. The question can be, how many employees are there? Where is the business located? These are the follow-up questions that you are going to get asked within your answers. The second kind of questions, unpredictable questions that can appear in your US visa interview, can be based on the documents you submit. You have submitted your mark sheet of grade 12, and the visa officer looks at it and realizes that you have studied economics. The officer can then ask you, oh, you have studied economics. Can you tell me what did you learn in high school about economics? Or the visa officer notices that you completed your high school in 2021, but now it's 2024. Oh, you have an educational gap. What were you doing in that period? Right? So these are the questions that the visa officer can ask based on the documents you have submitted. Let's say you have submitted your I-20 and it shows the university. The visa officer can ask you, where is this university located? This can be based on the documents that you submit. So make sure that you screen your documents before you go to the interview, and make sure that you know what you're submitting and the details that the visa officer can ask within that. In the previous video that we have made, there is a good explanation on how you can cover your gap, how you can explain it, and how you can answer questions for why do you have a low GPA. So you can also check that out if required. If not, then let's move on to the third kind of unpredictable questions, the follow-up questions that you can get. So at times there are questions that it's very hard to predict such questions because it comes out of the topic. At times, visa officers can ask you about your siblings. Do you have any siblings? Yes, I have a sister. What is she doing? Where did she study from? This can be a questions that might not be directly relevant to you. I have even heard from students that they were asked questions like, what are the major problems in your city? Or what's your favorite book? What's your favorite movie? So these are the questions that you can never predict and prepare, right? So all I suggest to deal with such questions is have a good communication skill. The follow-up questions are mostly asked to check whether you can have a formal communication without thinking or without memorizing the answers previously. So you're good. Just have a conversation with the visa officer. But if the follow-up questions are based on your answers or your documents, then you must have an answer to that. Try to think of as many possible questions as you can, and focus on understanding, not memorize the answers for all the cross questions, but understand. Oh, I've studied economics. This is what I studied. I have a low GPA. This was the reason. I'm saying that I have chosen to study computer science because I'm interested in machine learning. I know what machine learning means. Get ready with a good understanding. Now, the next topic that we will be discussing in this video is your strength and weakness. Every student may have some strengths and some weaknesses. Weaknesses, for instance, can be a very long, unjustified gap between your studies. A weakness can be a low GPA. A weakness can be having been accepted by a university which has a very less graduation rate, right? Whereas strength can be that you have applied and been accepted to a really good university. Your strength can be that you have a really good GPA. Your strength can be that you just completed your high school. Your strength can be that you have a sibling who had previously studied in US and they came back. So there's a high chance that you will come back too. The strength is that your parents are really well educated and they're making a really good money. So that somehow proves that you will complete your degree because you don't have to really worry about your expenses. That also proves that your family is educated, so you might not drop out from the university in between, right? So first, try to analyze what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses. Try to write it down. Try to write your strengths and weakness in a sheet of paper so that you are ready to justify your weaknesses. I have a gap? Yes, I do. So I was doing this in my gap, which was relevant to my subject. You have a low GPA? Yes, I have a slightly less GPA, but it was mostly in the language related subject. So I had a good score in the subject I'm going for. or yes, I have a slightly low GPA, but later on I took the SAT test and then I scored well in mathematics. So I have improved my maths skills. Get ready for your weaknesses and try to highlight your strengths as much as you can. The next topic that we are going to discuss in this video is the way of speaking. I believe that the way you present your answers is much more important than what you prepare on paper or on your laptop. That's because I have seen students who have so good communication skill that they can even present the generic answers in a really good way. It's very important that you prepare yourself for a natural conversation with the visa officer. Why is it so important? It's important because if you do not speak naturally, then the visa officer is obviously going to understand that you have memorized all your answers, and that does not make any sense, right? There are a few things that I want you to consider in order to make your speaking more effective. The first one is take pauses. There's a difference between taking a natural pause and an unnatural one. For example, if you are saying that I want to study in this university because this university it's not natural, right? But if you are taking natural pauses, like I chose this university because I feel that this university has so many facilities, like this, so we are taking natural pauses in between, and that helps the visa officer to understand that you're speaking in a natural way. You are not taking any unnatural pauses, or you are not saying it in a very, very, very fluent way. Like, I want to study in USA because I really like the facilities and I also love the. This is not natural either, right? So try taking pauses in between. The second thing that I want you to implement in your answers to make it sound more natural is to give emphasis to important words. For example, rather than saying that I want to study in this university because of the laboratories, say that I want to study in this university because of the laboratories. I think they are awesome, right? So I give more emphasis to laboratories and awesome. That's because I want the visa officer to listen to these things, right? So try these two things. There are a lot of other things that you can do to improve your speaking, but in order to get started with, try these two things. Try taking pauses to not speak very fast, and the second thing is try to emphasize important words. That will immediately help you to sound slightly more natural while speaking. And the best thing to do is not to memorize at all. Because if you memorize, the visa officer is going to sense it one way or the other. It can be difficult. So try not to memorize it. And even if you have to think of a certain points and remember it, try to present it in a way which looks like a conversation. Now let's talk about the best resources that you can use for your studies. I always say that the website is the best place for you to collect information about your subject, about the university as a whole, and also about the different factors that you can learn from the subject. But apart from that, I have two other recommendations that you can use to research about your university or US. The first is usnews.com. It's very popular. You can use this site to research more about your university, find out facts, and also you can read articles which can help you understand about the US education. The second site that I really recommend is very popular, that's ChatGPT. I do not recommend you to go to ChatGPT and ask why USA. But I really recommend you to understand about your subject matter, understand about what you will be learning through ChatGPT. Do not go and ask, give me a sample answer for my interview, but you can say that what will a student learn from a computer science degree? What are the career options after I'll complete a computer science degree, right? So this kind of research will help you to understand about your subject and your plans better. If you feel like you need some help with your preparation, you can let us know. You can contact the office, and we have group sessions or mock test at times which you can enroll for. But other than that, I really believe that if you have somebody, a friend to practice with, that's enough. Just spend a lot of time in the research. Try to understand things rather than just doing a superficial preparation for your interview, and get ready for a conversation. I'm sure that will help you a lot for your US visa interview. And if you have any questions about the US visa interview, you can simply comment in this video, and I will try my best to reply to all the comments out there. All right. Have a good time. Have a good day, everybody. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you.